Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. Hope you're all well on this Friday night. So, as you know, I live stream on Tuesdays and Friday nights. So, hope you're all very well and welcome to the show. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, what's happening with X? So, it seems that Keir Starmer and the Labour government want to ban it over the use of Grok, which is an AI tool. If you've been living under a rock. If you've been living under a grok. The story with Greenland, what's happening with Greenland is the US going to take it. Are they going to do exactly what they did in Venezuela? And a few other stories with JD Vance and others as well. And of course, that terrible shooting that took place this week. So the first story I want to jump to is, of course, not Bernie. We'll get to Bernie later. Number 10 hits out at insulting changes to Musk's Grok chatbot after deepfake warning. So the Internet Watch Foundation has warned that criminals using Grok to create child sexual abuse imagery. Let's have a look at this report from
This is
Sky.
disgraceful. It's disgusting. And it's not to be tolerated. X has got to get a grip of this. And Ofcom have full support to take action in relation to this. This is wrong. It's unlawful. We're not going to tolerate it. I've asked for all options to be on the table. It's disgusting. And X need to get their act together and get this material down. And we will take action on this because it's simply not tolerable.
Okay, so what's happening here? The issue is that, if you don't know, the issue is that Grok is an AI tool that sits inside or sits alongside X or Twitter. And what you can do is with Grok is you can use it to do research, or you can do it to create images or whatever. And what people have been doing is, of course, taking images of individuals, real ones and not real ones, and sexualizing them. Now, this has also included children. There was a star from the TV show Stranger Things, and I think she's 13, 14 years old, and images were recreated of her. So, of course, this is something really serious. And what needs to happen is something, with some sort of consequences have to be placed upon X or on Grok. So the problem here is that the Labour government have said, and other governments it seems are considering it as well, blocking X. Now what's happening is the images are created using Grok and posted on X. So if you block X, well then it doesn't matter if the people will still be able to create the images, but they won't be able to share them anywhere, or they won't be able to share them on this type of platform. So I think this is what the Labour government are trying to do. If as opposed to blocking Grok, the tool to create the images, what they're doing is they're blocking or planning to block Twitter or X. Now, the response from some people is, this is a breach of free speech. But this has nothing to do with free speech, because free speech is related to the public square. So people are allowed to express themselves in public. That's free speech. But when it comes to platforms like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or any of these are private networks. These are private forums. So free speech doesn't come into it. So in the same way as Elon Musk can regulate speech on his platform, the government have the ability to block and not run into the issue of free speech. You notice that the advocates for free speech are not complaining about how X or Twitter is blocked in Russia or in China. So will people be able to get around it? Of course they will. They'll be able to use a VPN to get around it whichever country blocks them. All they need to do is set up a VPN and get around it that way. But what it will do is it would have a massive impact on political figures who use this platform to push their propaganda. For example, Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage has more followers on Twitter than any other politician, all of the other politicians combined, it seems, in the UK. So this would have an impact on him. Reform use social media, in particular Twitter, a lot. They have a huge following there. They're able to promote their party through that. Now, they would, of course, if X was shut down, Twitter was shut down in the UK, they would find alternatives like YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, which of course they're using at the moment, but it would have an impact on them. They won't ban it. They'll just try and use this for some perceived leverage. They should ban it, but they won't. Keir has no balls. Yeah. I would be surprised if they do. I think, as you've said, they're using it as a way to pressure Elon Musk, but I don't think it's going to work with him because there are two problems. Once again, the issue is that it's the distribution, not the creation, where the problem really lies. So Grok itself is not. Grok could be separated from X, and then anyone who's sharing stuff on X would be liable. So the problem, it really stems from Grok and the people using Grok, because they're the ones who are creating this problem in the first place. So you'd need to ban Grok if you're really to get to the problem, get to the root of the problem here. But blocking X would, of course, stop people from distributing it on that platform, because the platform wouldn't exist for many people. But it's not just about, I don't think it's related just to that. I think it's also how X has been used to promote misinformation, to promote far-right propaganda. There's lack of transparency. There's been the exaggeration, the amplifying of far-right voices on X as well. And this is something that the government are concerned about. And, we saw it during the riots in 2024, where individuals were promoting their videos and getting money for them as well on X, and these people were engaging in hate speech, and they were being amplified by the algorithm because, of course, Musk is on the side of these people, so he would amplify these individuals. You cannot do anything about the creation. There are dozens of image creators and thousands of text models out there that can do this, sadly. Can get rid of the idiot-proof option, though. Yeah, so maybe the way is to block Twitter, to block X. But then what would happen with Facebook? So you would hope that, at least when it comes to Facebook, there would be proper moderation. So if anyone's putting up anything that's illegal, it will be removed immediately. So the government could go after each of these platforms and say, look, hey, if you want to still operate, you need to remove this content. Now, what Elon Musk has done to get around this, or even not even to get around it, is a pretty piss poor response, was he said that anyone who has a paid account on Twitter or on X can continue to create these images. But that's not solving the problem. So of course he doesn't want to lose all of the revenue in the UK. He doesn't want to lose this platform in the UK. So I think what may happen is he will come to some sort of compromise. Maybe they will separate Grok from Twitter, from X, so that he can say, look, hey, this is nothing to do with X. So banning X is not going to resolve this problem. But you would need to have a proper clampdown on this type of behavior. But he bought the platform in order to allow this type of behavior to continue or to be amplified. On Friday, Downing Street said changes to limit the use of the chatbot Grok image editing tool to paying users was not a solution, but proved the social media platform can move quickly when it wants to. The Prime Minister's spokesman said that the move simply turned an AI feature that allows the creation of awful images into a premium service. This is not a solution. In fact, it's insulting to victims of misogyny and sexual violence, he said. The Liberal Democrats called for regulator Ofcom to immediately block X from operating in the UK and for the National Crime Agency to launch a criminal investigation into the site. Science and Technology Secretary Liz Kendall said Ofcom should use the full powers of the law that Parliament has given it, and that means blocking X. Then it would have the full backing of the government. Where has Ofcom been when it came to, for example, GB News? GB News has not been promoting this type of material, but GB News has been engaging in some of the sort of shenanigans before this that Elon Musk was. But of course, there's no response on that. Should GB News be shut down? Well, I think it should at least be investigated by Ofcom. But Ofcom has, as you guys had said before, Ofcom has as many teeth as a chicken. Where's Carol Voderman when you need her? Exactly. I haven't heard from her in a long time. I think she's migrated to another platform. But the problem with if you migrate to another platform, these platforms are normally much smaller, so it takes a long time for people to build up a support or to have any impact. Not acceptable in the UK. GB News is supposed to be an entertainment channel. Just don't watch it because it's not entertaining. No, it's not entertaining. I watch it so you guys don't have to. And of course, I use it because I think it's important that stuff on it is called out, because obviously politicians who go on GB News, generally on the right, are given softball questions, to put it mildly. You know, if it's a case of somebody from GB News interviewing somebody from Reform UK, they're basically friends. I hope X is blocked. I'm overdue a bank. Sorry. Thanks, Brad. Tax and investigate the super wealthy. Make the pip squeak. Thanks, Max. Well said, Suzanne. I'm on Blue Sky as well. We don't know, but honestly, I think that they're using images by they collect from the Grok chatbot. Carol has had to step back, same as Tan. She's had a lot of abuse. Yeah, Supertansky has left Twitter over the abuse that she's been taking. So either CSAM, yes, or they get the material somewhere else. What info did Doge get? Did they get access to victims' photos in FBI files? Oh my goodness, I don't even contemplate that. Anyway, guys, let's move on to the next story. Stormer says more could be done to protect the Arctic amid Russian aggression in call to Trump. What aggression? No, when it comes to the Arctic, is there real aggression towards Greenland? I think Putin and Russia are a bit tied up in Ukraine at the moment. Amid a flurry of diplomatic activities, Sir Keir Starmer spoke to Mr. Trump about the Euro-Atlantic security in the wake of fears the US president may use military force to take Greenland, having captured Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. What the hell am I saying? Nicolas Maduro, not Nicola Maduro. Mr. Trump has repeatedly said, that the US needs Greenland, the largest island in the Arctic, as Greenland is very important for the national security of the United States, Europe, and other parts of the free world. I love how we keep using this term, the free world. You know, if you're in the United States, there's a good chance that you're going to be shot while you're sitting in your car. Not so much free, is it? Also, you're not allowed to criticize the dear leader, or you get arrested on the street. Not exactly the free world, is it? So, maybe this term, the free world, is a bit out of date. US officials have said that they could use military means to acquire the semi-autonomous Danish territory. Acquire. Was it a case of when Germany acquired Poland in 1939 or acquired Czechoslovakia? Was it a reacquisition after when Russia invaded and reacquired Ukraine? Was that acquired? The language here is amazing. Luckily, Denmark has lots of Lego and can build a colourful wall around Greenland. Well said, Kirsty. Yes, I saw the images. I don't know if you guys saw the clip I uploaded earlier today where there's a lieutenant general who had some strong words for Trump, and he had some strong words for the US, and he said that what Europeans and other NATO allies should do is just fucking stop buying their planes. Your planes are not coming in. So yeah, in a sense, if NATO allies said, hey, we're not going to buy NATO, American NATO equipment, then we're going to go somewhere else. I think that would have a significant impact on the military industrial complex in the US, and that would perhaps have an impact on Republican politicians who would pressure Donald Trump to go, yeah, let's talk about something else. Hey, look at what's happening over in Iran. Let's talk about Iran now. Let's stop talking about Greenland. Of course, when it comes to Greenland, it's about the resources. You know, it's so funny when it came to Venezuela. You know, Trump started out by saying we need to invade Venezuela because they're, you know, shipping drugs into the US, and this is a threat to national security, and it's killing Americans. And then the very next day, Maduro was probably still on a plane on his way to the US. The very next day, Trump was like, yeah, we need to control the oil. It's like, at least wait a week, okay, before you tell the truth. Okay, so it was all about the oil at the end of the day. You know, surprise, surprise. It wasn't really anything to do with drugs. It was just the oil. We want the oil. We want to control the oil, or we want to control where it's sold. I think this is more about the controlling who has access to the oil. So we don't want Russia or China to access the oil. We want to decide where it goes. Brad, thanks so much for that super chat once again. Remember school bullies. Think twice about bullying kids. The result one day, they might grow up and become Stephen Miller. I'm not saying this is true, but some people were saying that he wasn't bullied enough. I'm not saying that's the case, but absolutely right. Yes, this guy is like Goebbels. Maybe even, I actually think he's the one who's running the show in the White House. Donald Trump is not in charge. I think it's a case that Stephen Miller is running the show, and he's a frightening individual. You know, he would make Jack the Ripper say, I better stay in tonight. Nope, it's dumb. It's not even about the oil. It's Trump posturing his flop. It's a beautiful image. But you're probably right, Jan. You know, what's happening now with Venezuela? It seems what's happened is people thought the Trump administration were going to remove Maduro and replace him with a puppet, but they didn't. It's like they couldn't be bothered. It's like with Israel and Gaza. Trump is just too fucking lazy to do anything. So it seems to be the case with Venezuela. It's gone on the back burner. We're not hearing any more about Venezuela. I don't know, is it because the US has moved on? So, okay, we got rid of Maduro. Trump claimed some sort of victory here. The existing administration is still in place in Venezuela. And what they're doing now is they're cracking down on anyone who is showing support for the US attack. And these people are being arrested. I don't know what's going to happen to them. I hope they're going to be okay because, you know, I believe in free speech, and I think people should have the freedom to form an assembly. They should be free to disagree with the government. Not that I'm on the side of the Trump administration invading or taking over or attacking Venezuela, but people should be able to express themselves in Venezuela. But it seems that the government is going after anyone who expressed support for the removal of Maduro, and this is concerning. But the Trump administration had no plans to replace Maduro's government with somebody else. It seems to be just, we'll leave them there. Donald Trump got his photo opportunity. He got the picture of Maduro on the plane in handcuffs. That's all he wanted. This is how petty this guy is. It's how pathetic Trump is. Is it really about oil? Is it about posturing? Is it about control? Is it about spheres of influence? I think that's part of it. I think for Trump, all he wanted was the Maduro in handcuffs, so he can sell that. He can put it on his wall and say, add it to his list. of achievements. That's all he wants. Trump is a human embarrassment. He certainly is. So in relation to what's happening in Greenland, this is very interesting that Owen Jones put up on social media.
Today, using the American military to acquire Greenland, the White House says it's one of the options President Trump and his team are discussing.
If you're wondering what that noise is, it's a howl of pain emanating from the grave of George Orwell. Using the American military to acquire Greenland. Acquire. Is there any other word in the English language that might be, I don't know, maybe a bit more appropriate? I mean, there are, after all, around 170,000 words in current use in English. It's not like there's a lack of options here. A little thought experiment for you. Imagine a story was about Russia talking about Latvia. Would the BBC say, using the Russian military to acquire Latvia? Can you imagine? Do any of you think for a moment that would happen? Now, we all know what they would say. They would correctly say, by the way, that Russia is threatening to invade Latvia and annex it. That's what they'd say. They would foreground the fact that this would be an act of armed aggression, an illegal act of armed aggression at that. Note the text as well. They're using, on their on-screen banner, US Greenland plans. Euphemistic doesn't even begin to describe it. They're talking about it like, I don't know, government plans for transport or education. Use plans for things like going on holiday, spending time with friends and loved ones at the weekend. To emphasize again, we are talking about the US illegally invading territory in an act of aggression. Would the BBC have as their on-screen banner Russia-Latvia plans? I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And unfortunately, yes. I don't know what the decision-making process at the BBC is. This is the Trump administration planning to annex or invade. Maybe it's not even a case of invading, but pressuring. But the language is completely off. Gareth, thank you so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the stream tonight. Waiting for Make America Greenland again to become the next Trump tagline to go along with the Gulf of America and anti-fash are the fash. The anti-fash are the fash, yes. You notice that they don't use the word anti-fascist. They just say Antifa or Antifa. Antifa sounds really weird. But they never ask, what does that actually mean? What does Antifa mean? Anti-fascist. Oh, so they're anti... Oh, that means if they're against us, does that mean that we're fascists? It's like the comedy thing, you know, are we the baddies? Thanks, Gareth. The lemmings in the hordes of the stupor. The BBC trying not to upset Trump. Yes, the BBC are like, oh, we better not upset Trump. Remember they talk about how great all the benefits for the people of Greenland if they become Americans. You know, stuff like, I don't know, medical care debt. You know, going bankrupt over medical care. Maybe school shootings. I don't know. Does Greenland have school shootings? Well, if they become American, maybe they get some of those as well. Max, please give some hope for the world. That's a tall order, Anthony. Trump is not immortal. Okay, that's the best I can do. That's the most I can give you. An igloo tax. Trump will not live forever. And look, I think what we're starting to see. There is a podcaster called Vosh, and he made a very interesting point today. The Trump administration, when it came to the shooting of the lady in her car, they threw everything at it. The vice president delivered a press conference, and he spoke about this. This is not a government who's in control. This is not a government that is powerful. It's extremely weak. The Trump administration is not strong. They're pretending to be strong. You know, Vosh compared it to the 1930s. You didn't have, you know, the Hitler doing press conferences talking about, hey, we killed this individual, and you know, we don't. They just killed people every day, and they didn't give a crap. They were not reporting on it. The Trump administration is desperate to try and set a narrative that they're dealing with terrorists, that they're dealing with thugs, and they're not in control. They're losing the narrative. The American public are extremely upset about this. Like what you see on social media is bots and trolls and people who are paid to talk absolute tripe. But the average person is deeply concerned about this. They're really worried because Trump had said that he was going after criminals, foreign criminals. And I think even your average American would be like, okay, we don't want these people killed, but we want them dealt with. Then they moved on to foreigners in general. And then people were getting a bit, we don't want to deport people or punish people who are in the country illegally. Then they went after American citizens. ICE were harassing people, arresting people, detaining them. And American people, ordinary Americans were going, hey, wait a minute, you can't be doing this. People have their rights. People have the right to due process. And now you have arrived at a stage where ICE officers are shooting dead American citizens. What is the next step after this? So the American people, I think, are pushing back, and they're not going to take this lying down. This is a threat to every American, unless you're a member of ICE or if you're Donald Trump, because everyone else's game is fair game to these people. Not a massive fan of Owen Jones, but he makes a valid point. No, me too. But he makes a perfect point here about how the language is really important. And maybe, some of you guys are right that the BBC are afraid of Trump and they don't want to post anything that could be seen as offensive to him. Is Trump using oil-based tanning cream? Someone told him there's a shortage. Thanks, Kirsty. Yes. He's looking extra brown today, isn't he? Or orange or whatever. Run Seal. They should just tell him, use Run Seal. It's better. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's move on. Move on to our next story. Do you remember... This is interesting. Do you remember some months back, a number of MPs lost the whip? Well, Labour MP who rebelled over jury trial plans not expected to lose the whip. So do you remember at the very beginning there was a case of at the King's speech, a number of MPs lost the whip over the two-child benefit cap. So the party said you're going to lose the whip because you did not vote with the government, and they voted with their conscience, and they were kicked out. They lost the whip, so they were still Labour MPs. No, they were no longer Labour MPs. They were in Parliament, of course, but they were no longer Labour MPs. Some of them have been welcomed back into the party. But it seems that when there's a U-turn, people are welcomed. People are forced to vote a particular way. If they don't, they lose the whip. And then after the government does a U-turn, and these people are welcomed back. It's not a good look, but anyway. Former Ambassador Carol Turner urged the government to U-turn on the controversial proposal, as they have done with everything else. A Labour MP who broke ranks to oppose the government's plan to restrict jury trials has said that he is not expecting to lose the party whip, but if he does, he does not care. Carl Turner, the Labour MP for Hull East, told Sky News that he does not expect to be suspended from the Parliamentary Labour Party despite voting with the Conservatives on the Opposition Day motion opposing the controversial plans earlier this week. Mr. Turner, who's a force to be reckoned with. I've seen him interviewed a number of times, and he doesn't take any crap, this guy. Mr. Turner, former criminal barrister who has been vocal in his opposition to the plans, told Sky News, I do not expect to lose the party whip, but if I do, I do not care. I invited them to take the whip from me if they want to. At least I believe in something. If they want to take the whip from somebody who believes in something, then good luck to them. David Lammy, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, announced last week that defendants who are likely to get a sentence of 3 years or less will no longer get a jury trial. He also said defendants will no longer be able to choose a jury trial, and that their ability to appeal against magistrate court verdicts to a Crown Court will be limited. Ministers have argued that the move is necessary to tackle the backlog of court cases that have built up over the COVID pandemic, which now stand at approximately 80,000, and that without action the figure could reach 100,000 by 2028. But the proposals have attracted significant criticism from MPs and legal experts who have warned about curtailing rights and the lack of evidence the move will help bring down the backlog. Yes, and this is a significant problem, because the legal experts have been saying, look, the problem is not jury trials. The problem is a lack of resources and a lack of money. We saw last year junior barristers going on strike over pay and conditions. So if you don't have the people to process the claims, the cases, then you're going to end up with a massive backlog. The Tories refuse to invest in the criminal justice system. So it's not a case of, I really don't understand the approach here, because unless it's a trick the government is playing, unless they believe, hey, we just blame it all on jury trials and then we can we don't have to invest, or it'll buy us some time. But it's not going to, it's going to result in problems down the road, because if there are miscarriages of justice because of this, it's going to create massive problems later on for the government, maybe this government or the next one. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat once again. Can you please stop calling a merry band of masked quasi-military thugs who terrorize communities immigration enforcement by any chance, Max? I'll just call them fascists. Is that okay, Gareth? Well said. Immigration enforcement, indeed. Internationally criminal enterprise. I'll whip you into shape. Who's that? Never mind muckface, litter, or whatever. Much muckface. Sorry, it took me a while to get that one. Ron Sealman, muckface. Is it like, when you see him, it looks like his toilet exploded while he was looking into it or something? I don't know. Why does he look so weird? Donald Trump, that is. I'm terrified over here. The likes of Trump, Vance, Hegseth, Steve Miller, Bannon. These are not the sort of people who give up power willingly. I can't imagine how this will end. There is a silver lining here, or not. I don't know if it's a silver. It's something some hope to cling on to. A big problem with fascists is that they want power, but once they have power, the infighting begins. And we're already seeing this in MAGA. So MAGA are not happy with the Republican Party, and the Republican Party are not happy with MAGA. And if something happens to Trump, there will be a vacuum, and there will be massive infighting. So I agree with you, and I 100% see the fear, understand the fears that you have when it comes to these individuals. But if there is a power struggle, they will climb over each other for that power. They will fight each other, and it's very difficult for fascists to run a government. They're incompetent, and they're driven by ego. So you'll end up seeing, we're only 1 year in, more or less, but give it another couple of years, and we'll start to see massive fracturing take place, and they'll bring each other down. I think this is something that some other people have said. Van Man Talks has said, I believe it to a certain extent. If Nigel Farage gets into power, he will have to take responsibility. Nigel Farage is not somebody who takes responsibility. Nigel Farage, in a sense, I'm hoping this does not happen, but in a sense, it would be good for Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister, because then he would be exposed as a fraud. People would realise this guy is incompetent. This guy should be nowhere near the levers of power. The Reform UK party is a joke. And then people would kick them out, and hopefully we would never hear from Nigel Farage ever again. That's one possibility. I hope that it doesn't have to come to that. But if we look at Brexit, people voted for Brexit hoping that things would get better. They put their hope, their trust in people like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson. And how were they repaid? So people voted for Boris Johnson in 2019. Does Boris Johnson have a chance of becoming Prime Minister again? Pretty much no chance. I've said this before. Because people were burnt by Boris Johnson, burnt by the Conservative Party. And unfortunately, I fear that it might be necessary for Nigel Farage to become Prime Minister and for Reform UK to run Britain in order for people to realize just how terrible they are and to vote them out and never vote for them again. I hope it doesn't have to get to that. I hope they can be kept out. I hope people will engage in tactical voting to make sure that they don't get in the first place. But for many voters, they need some tough love in a sense. Gareth, once again, thanks so much for that. GOP versus MAGA. Trumpanzees fight Trumpanzees. Yes, very much so. This is the problem with fascists, that it's very difficult for them to maintain power. They have to maintain power through fear, and if they lose this fear they have, all this hold they have over the public, it starts to fall apart. And of course, there's a lot of infighting because it's driven by egos. So some people, I want to be the next Trump, or I want to be the next Trump, and people will fight against each other for that power. So there is a good chance that it could fall apart within the next 12 months, especially if something happens to Donald Trump. And he's no spring chicken. The thing with reform is, do they have enough inner circle people to actually make a government? I think what they're going to do is they're going to appoint a lot of donors and so-called experts. So they're going to have people who run businesses. They're going to put them in positions. I would look at what Donald Trump is doing in the United States. I see that as a framework for Reform UK, because they don't have the MPs, and they're not going to form a shadow cabinet. Like, you can't form a shadow cabinet if you don't have the MPs, using MPs. Okay, that's just the logic of it. And you can't wait until you get into power when you have lots of MPs to appoint them as ministers. The MPs will be appointed as ministers, but the secretaries of state, they will be donors, they will be business people, media people, celebrities, people who have hitched their wagon to Nigel Farage and reform, people who have donated to the party, just like in the United States. Look at, for example, the guy that I joke about all the time, Howard Ludnick. He's not competent, but he's there because he's a massive donor to Donald Trump. He's a friend of Trump. That's why he's in that position. It's not based on merit. Okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about half the time, which I find hilarious. So this is what Nigel Farage would do if he created a government. It would be based on people who are celebrities. It would be based on donors. It would be people who are loyal to Nigel Farage, because he wouldn't have the MPs. So this is what we're going to see. When we get closer to the next election, you're going to start to see the formation of some sort of shadow cabinet. And of course, Nigel Farage will spin it as, see, this is better than politicians because these are people who have experience in business. These are people who have experience in sport, or people who have experience in the media. And there are a lot of media people lining up to join Reform. Julie Hartley-Brewer, she would love to be a member of Reform UK government, maybe a minister for sport or minister for entertainment or something like that. Meritocracy and America is an oxymoron, yes. I do think things will get better in the future. AOC, I'm a huge advocate for making AOC president. I would love to see her as president. I think, America would be much better off with her or someone like her. Bernie, love Bernie, but he's old. He's like 1 million years old. I'm joking, but he's old, and you need fresh blood. You need somebody to come in. And somebody like AOC, I think, could go up against Trump. But remember, it's always about the incumbent. Are people happy with Trump? If they're not happy with Trump, they'd vote for a potted plant. So it's not really about the opposition. It's more about the incumbent. And people are not happy with Donald Trump at the moment. He's trying to distract them with wars and all sorts of shenanigans, and it's not working for him. Because people look around and say, hey, I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my rent. I can't put food on the table. I'm worried about health insurance. Everything is more expensive. Donald Trump said that things would get cheaper. Like, why he said that, I don't know. Because generally you don't see things getting cheaper unless there is deflation. And if there was deflation, the United States would be in serious trouble. So we're not seeing deflation. So prices are not coming down. They may go up slightly slower, but prices are always going up. Some things may get cheaper, like oil and stuff like that, but generally prices go up because of inflation. And, wages are supposed to keep up with them, but of course they're not. That's why people are getting worse off. So in relation to the cost of living, I wanted to show you this clip with our old friend Nick Ferrari.
Is it money well spent?
I think so.
Why so?
I absolutely think so.
You probably could have bought another house with the money you'll spend on education.
Yes, I think we probably could. But for me, it's the whole package. I'm lucky. My children are quite bright, so I have to think if they went to a reasonable school anywhere, they would academically do well. But they get the whole...
So why, therefore, have you committed to, I don't know, what is it, 7, 8 a term? I'm guessing. I have no idea what it is. Probably more, actually.
I wish it were.
Is it more? Is it? Right. Okay, gosh. So, and you've got to do that 3 times, and you've got to pay tax out of that. 3 terms. You've got 4 children. I think you could have bought 2 houses with what you'd have spent. So if your kids are bright anyway, why not let them go to the local state school in whichever part of Sussex you're in?
This is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but everything else that's offered, the sport, the music, the drama, the type of children they're in school with, and I'm not saying people in state schools don't want to learn, but they pretty much all want to learn. They all have parents who have invested so much. They are invested in doing the best for their children. And I'm really not saying this doesn't happen in the state schools, don't get me wrong, but it's just an environment where they are lucky. Let's be honest, they are lucky. They're fortunate.
Of course.
It's an environment built for them to thrive.
It should be a case that private schools don't exist. We should live in a world where private schools do not exist. And I think what one small silver lining maybe of AI is that we're going to get to a stage where every student will have their own private teacher. And it'll be free. Because the AI will be able to the AI will be like the level of it. Now, I'm not saying it's a legitimate replacement. I'm not saying that we replace teachers with AI, but I'm saying that we'll get to a stage where AI can be a free tutor for every student. So I think we need to look at moving away, and this would render private schools pretty much useless. Because what are they offering? They're offering something that's outside education, sport and music and stuff like that. But if it's about the basic education, I think with AI or some sort of tools like this, we could actually provide custom education. Instead of having a child in a classroom with 25 other students trying to grab the attention of the teacher for 2 seconds, you would actually have your own teacher who would be tailored to your needs and be able to follow you directly. And I think this is a positive of AI. I'm not saying that it's a replacement for school, but it could be a massive support. And it would render a lot of these private schools obsolete. Laura, thank you so much for that super chat. Thank you, Max. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Thanks for that. Look, when it comes to and my heart goes out to everyone in the United States, and thanks for your support. My heart goes out to you guys because you're going through a very difficult period. But I think what we're going to see is we're in the darkness before the dawn, and I know it's easy for me to say that on the other side of the pond, but I truly see it. It's fascists are not very good at working with other fascists. Nigel Farage thinks he can work with the fascists in France or the fascists in Germany, but it doesn't work like that. They hate each other. They're happy to share the photo opportunity together, but behind closed doors, they hate each other, despise each other. And this idea that France would take back asylum seekers because Nigel Farage has a good relationship with the fascists in France is a joke. But within a party, there's always a power struggle, and I think what we're going to see a collapse in the Trump administration. People jockeying for positions, and trying to appeal to the dear leader. And if Trump goes, I think the whole thing will collapse. They'll try and have people rally around J.D. Vance, but he doesn't have the same charisma as Trump. And MAGA is too linked to Trump. I don't think they're going to support J.D. Vance in any great way. I hope I'm right on this, but I think it always comes down to the cost of living, affordability, healthcare, things like this, and people are not feeling better off. And if you're speaking to family members in the US, and this is a message to people in the US, if you're speaking to family members who are MAGA or who are on the side of Trump, don't talk about the Democrats. Don't even talk about Trump. Just ask them, do you feel better off? You know, and they may say, oh, yeah, but it's Biden or whatever. But who's responsible now? Do you feel better off? Because if these people feel better off, then there's nothing you can say that will convince them to vote against Trump. But if they don't feel better off, then you can ask them, what would make you feel better off? Do you think the politicians in Washington care about you? Do you think Trump cares about you? Because if he cares about you, wouldn't he make you better off? And they can try and internalize the cult mentality, but they'll either not turn up to vote or they'll vote against the dear leader. Because they'll say, hey, what's the point in voting for the Republicans again? That's why the Conservatives lost at the last election in 2024, because people didn't come out with enthusiasm for the Labour Party. They wanted the Tories out and they were willing to vote against them. Not so much for particular parties, but against the Conservatives, because the Conservatives had run everything into the ground. So I have to sing, so not sing, happy birthday to Froth. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Froth. Froth Day or Froth? I say Froth because it's, I presume it's Froth. So I was singing happy birthday because I keep getting messages, you have to sing. So I will sing it and then it'll be done. And then so I recommend you put your fingers in your ears now in 3, 2, 1. And then I'll sing, and then you can, when I do this, you can remove your fingers from your ears, okay? Frothy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Frothy. Happy birthday to you. Okay, you can remove your fingers from your ears now. All right. The pain is over. The pain, it's like removing a Band-Aid, okay? My singing is like... the dogs turn their head when I sing. It's like, what the hell is that noise? Anyway, let's move on. And I'm way over the break, so let's just move on to the next one. The two-child benefit cap. Let me see if I can get this up here. No, I didn't want to do that. Damn it, I was meant to bring in another channel, another article, but we'll move on to this one instead. Nigel Farage accused... Oops. Okay. Farage accused of parroting Kremlin lines after remarks on UK troops in Ukraine. So Pat McFadden says stance on potential peace deployment cast doubt on Reform UK leaders' commitment to national security. Thank you so much, Gavin lad. That's too kind of you. Nigel Farage has been accused of parroting Kremlin lines after saying he would vote against any UK government plans to deploy the military in Ukraine. On Tuesday, Britain and France said that they were ready to send troops to Ukraine after a peace deal, but the Reform UK leader said he would vote against any such move to put boots on the ground. Farage's comments cast doubt on his commitment to the UK's national security. The Cabinet Minister Pat McFadden said he accused the politician of taking a pro-Russia stance on the issue, which he said should give voters pause for thought. This guarantee is not just for Ukraine, but for the whole of Europe, he said. And in the British national interest that we do that, and that is why it's so concerning to me to see some politicians like Mr. Farage, for example, immediately come out and parrot Kremlin lines, the Kremlin line that we shouldn't support this. Farage faced criticism for not really being an MP at all on Wednesday. Yes, because he didn't turn up. He couldn't be bothered to go to the House of Commons. He instead went, as it says here, after choosing to appear on Times Radio instead of attending Prime Minister's questions in the Commons. During the podcast, he criticised Starmer's Ukraine policy and said he would vote against any proposal to deploy troops to the country. Farage said, "It would be a very interesting vote. I would vote against," said Farage, who is one of the 5 Reform MPs. "We neither have the manpower nor the equipment to go into an operation that clearly has no ending timeline." Now, to a certain extent, Farage is correct, but not for the reasons that he supports it or he's against it. Yes, the UK is not prepared at the moment to go in and to defend. But in this case, we would not be expecting live fire taking place between a coalition force in Ukraine and the Russians. So it would be very surprising. Not saying impossible, but it'd be very surprising if Russian forces attacked European forces, non-Ukrainian forces in Ukraine. Because it would bring hell upon them. And it would galvanize support against Russia. So I don't see that happening. But to a certain extent, he is correct that the UK forces are completely bare. And they wouldn't have the forces necessary to maintain a significant force there. But to talk the country down, in a sense, while people associate him with being pro-Putin and pro-Russia, especially as one of his former leaders, the leader in Wales, is now in jail for taking money from the Russians. Okay, so Farage should have said, "Look, I'll support this measure, but I don't think we're ready to go into it. We're not ready to go into Ukraine." That would have been a much more intelligent approach. Like, Farage is a clever guy, but he has this horrible association with Russia around his neck. And this would have been a good way for him to say, "Look, I'm not doing Putin's bidding. I'm not on his side. I would support the government here, but I have there are issues that we need to look into," and that would be an honest approach. But of course, he can't do that. Farage going up Putin's you-know-what is all all the time would explain his streamlined head shape. Does he have lube? Does he put lube on, Vaseline or something before going in? Does he compare, with Putin and Trump? Does he compare, experiences? Kirsty, his name is actually McFudden. So it is a little bit concerning that Farage would be voting in favor of the Kremlin position. So maybe, I don't know, is he still on the take? Is he still getting money from Putin? Anyway, guys, let's I want to go to this video. We're almost at the end of the stream, so I wanted to cover a few other things before we go. Look, first of all, as I said before, I'm a fan of Bernie Sanders, but that doesn't mean that Bernie Sanders is always right. And while people present him as some sort of Luddite, so he's against technology, he's against AI, and rightly so in some ways, what he's actually against is the government not having a plan for AI. Have a listen to this.
Who is pushing this revolution in technology? It is the richest people in the world. Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Peter Thiel. Multi-billionaires are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into implementing and developing this technology. What is their motive? Do you think they're staying up nights worrying about working people and how this technology will impact those people? They are not.
We saw workers doing a job at the Hyundai plant that Atlas is being trained to perform.
I guarantee you there are going to be people who will say, "I'm going to lose my job to a robot."
Work does change. All of its joints can rotate a full 360 degrees. Well, that's beyond what you and I can do. And we think that's the way you should build robots. Don't limit yourself to what people can do, but actually go beyond.
It will evolve and transition certain jobs, right? And people will need to adapt.
Now, the way he talks about it is, this is happening, and we, humanity, need to figure out how to adapt to it.
Right, while they make huge amounts of money.
So yeah, the aspect of the thing that Bernie is saying here is of course correct, that these people are going to make huge amounts of money. What they're going to have is a situation where instead of workers, you have robots, or you have AI, or you have some sort of automation, and it's going to drive the prosperity in our countries. And it's not just the United States, it's not just China, everywhere. We're going to see this everywhere. And it's going to create a situation where people have no jobs. Now, I'm an advocate, as you guys know, of a UBI, but there's also another issue. There's the issue of a UBS, Universal Basic Systems, or Universal Basic Services. So we provide services for everyone as well. It's not just about the money, because what's going to happen is the cost of everything is going to come down because you don't need people, and you're able to use the AI to find better ways of doing things, cheaper ways of doing things. So the AI is going to bring down the cost of stuff. So this is going to make life for basic things cheaper. It should make things cheaper for people. But people will still need services like healthcare. They will still need social care. They will need all these things, support from the state, services, all of these things. So what governments are going to have to do is they're going to have to provide a solution to this problem where jobs are no longer. And if you think about it from another point of view, our labor, our work, our ability to work has been our bargaining chip in society. So, for example, if a landlord is renting out a property, they rely on the person working to pay the rent. But if that person can't work anymore, it's a problem for that individual. But if everyone is in a situation where they can't work anymore, there's no jobs, everything has been done by AI, what dynamic does that create? For example, when it comes to paying back mortgages or debts or rent or any sort of any sort of debt you have, credit card debt or mortgages or any sort of debt, that's related to your ability to pay in the future based on your work. You know, if you want to get a mortgage, you have to show that you're working, or you have a long-term contract, or you have the ability to pay back this loan. If jobs disappear, this is going to completely change the way our societies operate. And we tend to focus a lot on people losing their jobs, but there's a whole range of other areas that this is going to impact. You know, healthcare. You know, we generally use our taxes to cover the cost of healthcare. So if we get sick, when we go to the hospital, we don't have to pay, or it covers prescriptions, or it covers going to the GP. These things are covered by people working. So if people are not working, how is that cost going to be covered? Is it going to be all outsourced to AI, where it'll be cheaper? But then how's the government going to provide these services? Dr. Dublin, thank you so much for that super chat. Very kind of you. My uncle was a man called Maurice Foley, an MP for 20 odd years, and then Deputy Director General for Development of the European Commission. Wow. He'll be looking down at AI and truly worried, as I am. End of the unions. Yes, it well said. It takes away the power that unions have. The unions have, of course, the ability to remove power, to pressure a company or the state into a particular course of action. Thanks for that support as well. Thanks for that super chat. If the jobs are taken away, what powers do unions have anymore? They don't have any power. So there are so many dynamics. We tend to focus just on some people losing their jobs and hoping, well, I'll be okay, or maybe I can adapt to the new AI, or I can train up or something. But it's going to have a fundamental impact on pretty much every aspect of society. And I fear that our governments are not prepared for it, because a problem for a government or a politician is if they talk about something that hasn't arrived yet, they'll be seen as not focusing on what's currently here. So if politicians are talking about AI, they're not talking about the NHS, or not talking about immigration, or they're not talking about, so they'll be criticized. Well, if they don't talk about AI now, if they don't prepare people, when the jobs start disappearing, and jobs are disappearing at the moment, in the sense that many companies are not taking young people on. And think about it for young people. We need to create an alternative for them. Because if young people can't join the workforce, they can't train up, they can't build a career, and they can't retire at the end, because they haven't been working at the beginning. So AI is going to replace so many things. It's going to upend our economies. It's going to upend the whole pension system. What about permanent contracts? People who have permanent contracts, they'll end up having to be forced out, because companies would probably see it as better just to pay somebody to leave than to keep them on at a higher cost, because the AI or the robots will do it much cheaper. And once again, we have governments who are sticking their heads in the sand or walking blindly into this with their eyes closed. They don't know what's going to happen, and they don't have a plan B. We keep hearing, what do we keep hearing? There are too many people on benefits. They need to get off those benefits and into jobs. What frigging jobs are you talking about? Because every time something is automated, people will be kicked off their jobs into something else. Some people will find other jobs, but the amount of available jobs gets smaller and smaller, while the number of people available to do jobs gets bigger and bigger. And you end up at a tipping point where you're going to end up having riots or some sort of civil unrest if people don't have a means to feed themselves. Be an electrician, plumber, these will be probably the last jobs done by robots. Jobs that probably will never be done by robots, I would imagine, are carers or certain doctors, because people prefer a human. Not that the human would be better. Technically, the robot or the AI could do it better than the human, but people don't. If you're talking to somebody about an illness, or if you're delivering a diagnosis, people would prefer a human to deliver this diagnosis to them than a robot or an AI system. So there will always be a requirement for people to do certain jobs, because people want to have bad news delivered to them, or they want to have good news delivered to them by a human and not a machine. They want somebody who's going to look after them, for that to be a human. Maybe supported by a robot, maybe to lift people in and out of beds, but to be there to feed them, to talk to them. They want a human. They don't want a machine. So there will always be certain jobs available for people, but those are becoming a niche. And the rest of us, what do we do? I could be replaced by an AI as well. It's not so much I'll be replaced, but my bandwidth will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and better YouTubers will come along that are much more beautiful, much easier on the eye, and people will flock to them because they're maybe more interesting or easier to look at. So once again, I don't want to end on a very negative note here, but I think what we need to see going forward is governments understanding that there's massive change coming and we have to be prepared for it. And we can't just hold out until it's too late. So guys, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much to everyone who sent a super chat. I'll be on the post-stream chat for a little bit after the live stream, so do check that out on Discord. Before we go, we have our one for the road. I want to show you this funny clip, and then I will see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. But hope you enjoy this. Here we go.
I'm joined now by Labour spokesman Stephen Pineless MP to discuss recent events. Minister, good morning. Good morning. It's been an extraordinary week for global politics. I just want to start with Venezuela. Have the actions of the US in Venezuela violated international law? Well, look, international law is extremely important for global stability, but we support President Trump in this operation to restore democracy to Venezuela. You can't do both of those things. Okay, just the second bit then. What about the proposed invasion of Greenland to extract uranium and oil and other things? Isn't that a threat to the future of NATO? Well, look, Greenland is a big chunk of ice with a boring name doing nothing. At least if President Trump takes over, he'll build a few casinos and hold a few underage beauty pageants up there. And after this week's murder of an innocent woman by President Trump's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, what do you say to accusations that ICE is nothing more than a US Gestapo? ICE are doing an extraordinary job in very difficult circumstances, much like the Gestapo did. Now, deaths are regrettable, but they are necessary in the war between domestic terrorists and a load of saggy-jeaned white supremacists with guns. And what do you make of these reports coming in that US B-2 bombers have been seen over the Atlantic this morning as part of a coordinated attack on London to seize power from your government and to take over the United Kingdom for the foreseeable future because President Trump wants, quote, all your castles and palaces and shit? Well, look, we are working closely with our US counterparts to ensure that their unscheduled, militarized visit this morning is a successful operation that benefits both sides. I want to be clear on this. We stand shoulder to shoulder with our allies as they bomb us. And finally, is it true that when President Trump met you, he called you a gap-toothed jerk and kicked you in the face? He did. It was an honour to meet him. Minister, thank you. Thank you.
It's so true. It's funny because it's true. Jacob Rees-Mogg will have an AI nanny as brutal as Veronica. Thanks, Brad. So, guys, once again, thank you to everyone who came on tonight. Thanks for smashing the like button. Thanks for your comments. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. And thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job, as always. See you on the post-stream chat right after the show. Good night and take care. Oh, Kirsty's super chat. I didn't see it. AI can't wear a hat as well as you do, Max. Oh, thank you so much. Well, there we go. Thanks a lot, Kirsty.